Matthew and Paula, could you join me up at the front? And if I could ask, please, for the slide presentation to be loaded on. Thank you. So, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to a historic moment. What we're about to do is to launch something that has been years in the making, decades in the making, some might say, but more urgent than we could have possibly imagined when we began this journey. This is a panel to launch a declaration of the IDRC Research Chairs on Forced Displacement, that is specifically focusing on the foundations and the renewal of international protection for forcibly displaced populations. This comes at a particular moment, but as part of a historical trajectory. The historical trajectory is of a global refugee regime that was established in Europe by primarily actors and reflecting the interests of actors from the global north. As we've heard earlier today, there was an active debate within the negotiating room in the lead up to UNHCR's statute on what sort of international organization should be mandated to respond to these massive displacement needs in the aftermath of World War II. There were competing visions. There's a vision from India and Pakistan that UNHCR should be a strong, independent organization with a political mandate and core funding. There was a different view that UNHCR in the early days of the Cold War, when displacement was far too important a foreign policy priority, that UNHCR should be reliant on voluntary contributions, should have a non-political mandate. It was a very inauspicious beginning for UNHCR and the global refugee regime. But as we have learned from Matthew's intervention earlier today and from the work of the research chairs, over the past 75 years, those core principles of protection, those core principles of rights, and as we heard from the High Commissioner at the beginning of our dialogue today, that core commitment to the international cooperation to find solutions has not only survived, but has thrived. There has been a narrative in the politics of the global refugee regime that actors in the global south reject principles of protection. And the work of the IDRC research chairs over the last 4 years has clearly demonstrated that is not the case. What we have seen from the work of the IDRC research chairs in contexts from Peru to Thailand has been the daily struggle to realize those rights in a way that is meaningful and responsive to the context in which those rights are pursued, to address the power asymmetries that have conditioned the way knowledge is produced and who is involved in the design of solutions. There's a legacy within the global refugee regime of global South contexts being leaders in innovation and change. So at a moment both of celebration and crisis, the IDRC chairs themselves decided that it was time to take a stand. It was time to categorically enumerate the principles on which they base their work and the principles that they seek to see advanced at this moment when we mark the 75th anniversary of the 1951 Convention, and at a moment where the regime itself is being threatened by those very actors that established the regime 75 years ago. So I say this is a historic moment. It's a historic moment of clarity. It's a historic moment of analytical rigor. This is what the chairs themselves have developed in reflecting upon their journey and in responding to this moment. But don't take it from me. I am delighted to be joined here on the panel by two of the IDRC chairs who have done the heavy lifting of giving up evenings and weekends and finding time within their busy schedules of teaching and research and other forms of service to propose drafts, to receive comments and revisions from the IDRC chairs, to have meetings to discuss what is it collectively that the IDRC chairs can declare in this moment, in response to this moment, and in the marking of this moment. So while this is a project of the 12 chairs, we're very fortunate to be joined here on the platform by 2 of the 12 IDRC chairs. First, we'll hear from Professor Paula Banerjee, who is the IDRC Chair on Gender and Forced Displacement at the Asia Institute of Technology in Bangkok. Paula will introduce us to who has been behind this project and why there's a feeling that it's necessary to issue something called a declaration. Professor Matthew Bird from Universidad del Pacifico in Peru will then walk us through what this declaration articulates, and will then outline what the chairs then hope to be able to do with this declaration. What are the next steps that we can look forward to, especially leading to the High Commissioner's Dialogue in Geneva in December of this year. And so it is my great pleasure now to pass the microphone to Paula to begin, and then Matthew will provide more context. There will then be a time for questions and comments from colleagues in the room. And I am very grateful to be present at this truly historic opportunity. Paula, to you, please.
I begin this exposition with humility. I am aware that I am not a displaced person myself, but I'm the daughter of refugees. We are all daughters, granddaughters of people who have moved from east to west or west to east. In my case, my grandparents moved from what is now Bangladesh, East Pakistan, or East Bengal, and they came and settled in Kolkata and made a career for themselves. So I want to tell my young friend, I completely endorse nothing about you without you. As a feminist in the movement, I believe this is what we should do. I morally believe that, and this is what we have been trying to do. World is yours. We are just trying to create some spaces for you. That's all. Who are we? We are great friends, family. We are 12 of us represented here. I know all the people in the map by their first names, and I can sort of rattle off. So Matthew is from Peru. We have Hiram from Guadalajara. We have, before Matthew, Feline from Peru. Then we have, who is that in red dress? Oh, Desiree from Dominican Republic. And then we come to Africa. From Western Africa, we have Mary, and we have, oh yes, that's Mary. And then we have, from Eastern Africa, we have Opportuna, and we have my friend Abibo. I missed Alain. How could I miss that, Alain? Okay. And then the MENA region, there's Miriam, there's Hueda, there's Sosan. Then we go even left or right, whichever, and we come to Thailand, where Nini Cho is no longer there. He should have been here. He is actually a migrant from Myanmar. He was part of the chairs group. I am there, and my dear little sister, Sirada, is here. Amazing group of people. This is who we are. We have lived in the belly of the beast. We are not driven by northern discourse. We have our own discourse, and we are completely morally dedicated to the fact that many of us are displaced. But when we talk about displacement, we do not assume voices. We honestly say, we are not displaced or we are displaced, but what we want to do is to make a better world for the displaced communities. This is who we are. Why the declaration and why now? This is a very good question. We have been pondering about it, not because we have worked on it for 4 years. No, that's not why the declaration is now. The declaration is now because normatively, the Global North largely created some mechanisms, some principles. But those principles over the year have shown us that even though it was created for exclusion in 1951, we, the people who are dedicated to it, have normatively been able to help people. One person helped is one person helped. So we have used it, we have been subversive in using it. But now we come to a different moment. And this moment is the post-Global Compact moment, the post-Syrian refugee into, Europe, and 1 million of people go to Europe and it becomes a crisis. In my country, between India and Pakistan, in one day, 8 million people moved in one day. And over the months of partition, 16 million moved. The world did not care. But when 1 million went to Europe, it was crisis and the New York Declaration had to be made. And then we have the Global Compact, 2 global compacts, in fact. One on refugees and one says safe, orderly, and regular migration. Which migrant says, I will be unsafe, I will be disorderly, and I will not go as regular, but I'll be irregular. I love being irregular. I love it that my rights are being taken off, So who makes them safe, orderly, regular? The states make them stay safe, orderly, regular. The states stamp them as safe, orderly, regular, and by trying to make the channel for safe, orderly, regular, they put millions who are unsafe, who are disorderly, who are irregular. Over 70% of them are women. So as a woman, it affects me. Domestic workers change from one country to another, and post-Global Compact, we had the COVID. That's when we found out what borders actually meant. Women were dying in the road, women were giving birth to babies, but they did not get the acknowledgement that they deserved. So that is why we are at a moment when it is not the Global South, mind you, my friends. It's the Global North that is trying to create situations where the mechanisms that they have built to protect maybe 1% of the world's population, even that edifice they want to break. So it is time for those of us who are educated, who are legally sound, the microscopic minority, which is absolutely ridiculous because we don't have funding to get the majority, but at least we are trying to raise our voices. We can be completely wrong, but we are saying the norms have to be maintained. And the norms were only created in 51. Then it was taken, as my friend Matthew said, by the Global South in the OAU in 1969, the Cartagena in 1984, then we have the Kampala, then we have San Jose, then we have Bangkok, and in every place it is the Global South that have been driving this. And now we are coming to a movement when the Global North is creating warlike situation, calling it little excursions. Can you imagine the insult to the world? They are killing people in droves, in millions, and talking about little excursions. The temerity, the audacity of the North. It is time now to stop that audacity, to say that we have principles that need to be expanded upon. We cannot break the edifice. There are certain givens below which you cannot drive us. Nobody can drive us. So we need to create that space. We need to say stop. So this is the chair's mode of saying stop with your shenanigans. We will not accept it. The Global Compact has shown us one way through development, but we will move beyond that. We will create spaces for justice. We will create spaces for peace. So that is why now is the moment. And we seize the moment to do the work. Over to my friend.
Do you want to keep working from that list, or do you want to go to the next slide? Is it? Do you want to keep working from that list, or go to the next slide?
I think we can go to the next one. That's a hard act to follow, Paula.
You are fantastic.
There's no such thing as competing with that. No, I just speak, but humility, right? There's such humility with which one shares. Is the microphone? Yeah, which one shares, and just kind of sharing what we affirm and propose. Just see me as an empty vessel, trying to channel and voice what my colleagues and my peers have we worked to state and to articulate, and what Paula, not just in terms of statement, but in just terms of moral strength, just articulated. But I do want to, start off, there's you said this, Paula, yesterday, where, I see it as sticking a stake in the ground, right? Is what you're, in a sense, what you're saying. And you used a fantastic metaphor, a sports metaphor yesterday, a football metaphor, that sometimes when the one side is attacking, you have to close your defense, right? You have to seal them off. And then what you do is, once you've sealed it off, then you counterattack. And I see kind of what we're trying to do with this declaration, as we're trying to put a stake in the ground. We're trying to seal off the defense, and our seal is exactly, reaffirming the normative principles. And I insist, beneath those normative principles, there's a moral ground from which we speak. But then once you have that, where is the effort? We're affirming, but we're also kind of moving towards what is the counterattack, if you will. And first, where do we seal it off? Existing instruments remain the foundation. We said this earlier. You'll read it in the declaration in terms of 1951. The importance of certain core principles, which are binding, right, for so many states, and then the expansion in 1967. We stand firmly by those, and the core principles, especially, I won't mention them all, but non-refoulement, right, the right to seek and enjoy asylum. These are these core principles that we reaffirm and we will not bend from, right? But beyond that, you said it too, we reaffirm and we position ourselves in this regional tradition of expansion of protection. And we've named them. It's OAU, it's Cartagena, and going on down through the line. So we reaffirm this, we state this loudly. But as we state this is the defense, we reject these efforts to limit, deflect, and divert. Right, the really abuse of quote unquote safe third country rules, the externalization, right, the pushbacks, the pullbacks, et cetera, and I could go on, and we state it in the declaration. There's also this idea of, I said this, and there's a certain dismantling masquerading as reform. There's a disingenuous critique of the convention. There's a certain who knows what intention is, but vocal misinterpretation of the convention. And we stand against those misinterpretations, against the rollbacks, against the attempts to renegotiate. For us, it's not the normative principles that need to be addressed or reformed. It's actually a question of implementation. It's a question of the extension of those mechanisms, et cetera. For us, renewal is the answer, not rollback. For the end, and not renegotiation for the mend. We also call for greater international cooperation. And so we see this movement of externalization of the financing of, I don't want to name states, but attempts in terms of moving asylum processing abroad, et cetera. This inequitable burden sharing, what's happening with the financial situation. And we are calling for greater international cooperation. And where we call for it, we'll go later, is it's not just, it's a truly international cooperation. And we'll work on this, but there's solutions coming from the regions. So the different types of cooperation that we've spoke about today that we also declare. Someone mentioned earlier about forms of, what would need to be modified. And not necessarily modified, but it's in the spirit of strengthening the expansion of protection. Not all forms of displacement are recognized, right? Internally displaced peoples, for example, stateless peoples. So there's even climate displacement. So we speak to this idea of shoring up certain elements that are not recognized and strengthening those. So all forms of displacement. We speak in terms of the gender responsive and intersectional nature. So this idea of responses across the board. I'm so humbled by just the keynote that we heard. No one could explain it or share it better than what she shared. But also, this is not just the responsibility of UNHCR and indirectly in collaboration, IOM, or even the UN system. This is something about the global action beyond the global refugee regime, and it was said so well earlier in terms of the regional mechanisms, the regional bodies that we have, the infrastructure that's already in place in so many different regions, and seeking to strengthen and to develop those. It's also a question of, it's about health, it's about education and understanding. It's about international financial institutions, multilaterals. There's an articulation and partnership, and the word partnership. There's a emerging model there still that for all of us collectively to work through. But we're calling for wider systems must articulate and respond. And finally, and we saw this, it's, this is where I speak, so I feel almost like an imposter speaking to you, because this has to be led by those who are most affected. They have to be a part of the conversation. It's with them, for them, by them. Because they are the ones affected. They are the human being. They're the one whose rights are being violated, and we must absolutely make a space for them to retain their dignity, to retain their, and this word is such a powerful word. It's a deep word, but autonomy. We talk about forced. That's like I can't stand forced and involuntary, et cetera. It's where is this agency and where is this autonomy? True autonomy and making decisions and having a role in the development and trajectories of one's life. And that's what we seek to honor and to restore. So we stand by that. The declaration's better than what I just said. Not as good as what Paula explained, but all those key components are in there in about 1,800 words. But this is just a statement, right? And I say this, also a colleague, Hiram, he said yesterday, he said, we need to really be humble as well about modest, about who are we, right? What can we really do? And I think that's important, right? Because it allows you said this too, Medium, it allows us to listen. It allows us to empathize better. It allows us to find those points of commonality and to truly articulate and collaborate better together. But this is what we commit to. The declaration is not an end; it's a point of departure, and it's a point of departure to try to widen the base, if you will, from us and having our commitment as the 12 chairs and widening it beyond the 12 chairs, not just academically but through sectors. And so, first, what we're going to do is we're going to translate it through French, Spanish, Arabic, and really get it out there. And we're going to have work through from today until World Refugee Day. We're going to be working in terms of launching it. And so imagine we have 12 chairs, 12 seats throughout the, you saw the map. So all of us will be working together to try to basically make this as public as we possibly can. So, of course, everyone that's sitting in the audience today, help us with that in terms of UNHCR, IOM, the country states, et cetera. Help us replicate that message and allow it to echo and to drown out the vile alternative information, we'll just say, that's out there that's causing so much damage. And then what we will be doing after World Refugee Day it'll be the virtual launch. Until then, that's when we'll start to work towards true mobilization. So public engagement activities, local and regional, and each one of us working within our regions to try to articulate. And we already have our established networks and socializing this. Now this is the key. Like, okay, great, normative, moral, yeah. And this is what was so exciting about that last panel that we had today, but there were elements that came out, especially in the first and the second panel as well, in terms of what does the new structure or model or way of operating look like? We saw it in the High Commissioner as well, right? There is this idea of a partnership, this idea of catalyst, this idea of regionalization, and this is something that we're all working on. What does it look like, right? And so that's something that we're committing to working on, especially from the perspective of systematizing the evidence, the rights-based, the research, the training. What are the models that are out there that exist in each one of our regions? And we saw something tremendous yesterday. We had an internal meeting yesterday as we presented our work, and what was really exciting, and we hope that we'll be getting this out there, is there's patterns. There's patterns that are already there, happening in Latin America, happening in East and West Africa, Horn of Africa, happening in Thailand as well. And so, but the thing is there's patterns and there's local regional architecture, but it's all contextually sensitive because every region is different. It's the power of local knowledge, and we were talking about this, James, proximity for articulating what a solution looks like in Thailand and Ethiopia.
Knowledge with global principles.
Yes, that's a good way of saying it because we're operating from global principles. But when you bring it down in terms of the local knowledge and the local implementation, and that's what does the implementation look like to realize these principles? And so that's our commitment, is to continue to work on that and to be as feverish as we can. And what are we working towards? You can see we have the High Commissioner Dialogue in December 2026 in Geneva. And so we're trying to a runway that will take us to December, and hopefully we'll have something to contribute in December to that dialogue in Geneva. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matthew and Paula, for your work in getting the Chairs Network to the point of having a document, and to everyone who contributed to that journey, and to presenting it with such conviction. I will note that the draft of the document will be online shortly, so that you're able to see that as it is being now finalized and drafted. I would also say, if I may, with my own positionality as an academic sitting in the global north, as someone who's been a student of the politics and practice of the refugee regime for some 30-odd years, the normative commitments and the statements of principles and the call to action that are in the declaration, I think, have the greatest power when we recognize the diversity of contexts from which that consensus emerges. That this is not something from an isolated site. This is not a single set of interests. This is a collective voice of scholars who only met each other for the first time and not in 2023. And anyone who's worked with academic networks will know that building trust and mutual confidence is a long and challenging process. So the fact that this clarity of shared purpose has been articulated, I think, is very powerful. That it comes at a time, and Matthew mentioned this yesterday, it's not simply rebutting an argument that is getting the most attention at the moment. It's not simply rebutting the argument of the bullies, but it's standing on principle from the diverse context in which the chairs work to say, we affirm that these principles are relevant, are important, are valuable, and are essential in the diverse contexts within which we work. And it is from that that we can build responses that can deal with the scale of the challenge we face today. And that is why, from my perspective, this is a profoundly significant document that is part of a broader global movement to not just, in the football terms, in a FIFA World Cup year, that not just to defend against this relentless attack, but how do we then mobilize and then score that winning goal? And that's what we're looking for. And that's what the High Commissioner called us to do in his address that started our day today. So with that, I'm delighted to open the floor to comments, to questions, to ringing endorsements of what is being proposed. This is a sincere effort by the chairs to make a contribution that is valuable. If there are perspectives on how this might be useful, context where it might be brought, I know that that would be of great value to the chairs as they develop tomorrow morning their meeting, their plan of action on mobilizing this document. So the floor is open. Who'd like to begin?
Can you, yeah. So first, thank you so much for all this effort and to reaffirming the core norms of the refugee protection. So that's, I mean, I knew that I kind of guessed that that was the direction we were going to, but it's always reassuring to realize that we are all together. And I was just also in terms of mobilization, because it's true that the 12 shares, it's global south, but I think that it's such an important declaration that it would be good to, I was wondering if you had any strategy to include maybe more academia or like kind of reach out to maybe the in your respective countries or your respective region to kind of bring others along, because that would have even like a much stronger kind of representation. I believe that there will be also some mobilization at headquarters of the academic world. So I'm wondering if you would be part of those. So that's voilà. But that's. I think it's so important that it's worth that we really kind of, or you because you really come with like a very large audience and with a very wide mobilization. And thank you so much for all your work over the years, your reflection, and the achievements that you have reached today. Thanks a lot.
I will try and be super quick. Echo what Muriel said. Amazing, and thank you for allowing us to be here, to be part of it, and to hear it. And just thinking, as we are at the 75th anniversary, there are so many different events happening, right, at both country levels, regional level, and the global level. But I think it would be great to maybe try and put different chairs in contact with different UNHCR, and maybe at the regional level, but also at the country level. So when these events are ongoing, it would be great to have your engagement in these, and again to reaffirm and and get a way to get this declaration out more and in these different events. I think from my side, I'd be really happy to try and support that if it's of interest. Thanks.
Matthew, do you want to maybe first mention sort of the idea from Latin America with the op-ed and sort of that mobilization, and then Paula, if you want to then take that as well.
Oh yeah, tomorrow's the plan of action, right? No, but one of the things that we were talking about as well is, we have to. It's funny. It's who is your audience too, right? Its audience are policymakers, but also there's an audience of the public, right? And so one of the things that we're considering with my colleagues in Latin America is, just columns, column en el país, right? It's the language of record in the Spanish language, el país, and getting a column out in there leading up to the Refugee Day. We all have our own within our own countries, press. I do think that there's a social media strategy that we need to articulate. There's certain kind of, don't want to get in the nitty gritty, but digital assets, if you will, of some of what we've kind of created today, right? I think it's going to require us to be. Also, I think it's kind of context dependent, right? In each region, understanding how to reach those. Yeah, I think we're still. That's why please share all the ideas that you have, because I think we're in this stage where it's still forming. We have the ideas, we have the idea of the column, but it's
the text was finalized night before last. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Matthew was saying. Actually, we want all of you to run with it because we are not possessive. We've developed something. We are giving it to all of us. And we are also running with it. I mean, I shouldn't be answering because we all did the work together. So I'm just dressed up. That's why they asked me to sit here. No, but the reason why I'm saying that we want everyone to run with it is because we are going to run with it. All of us are organizing an event before or just after the Refugee Day on this declaration. So in Thailand, my friend, my little younger sister, Sirada, can you show your face? Yes. Who was one of the people who worked tiringly towards getting the right to work of Myanmar refugees. She was one of the academics who managed that with her group. So she is doing an event in Chiang Mai, and I will be doing an event in Bangkok. In both places, we will bring up the declaration. Before that, we will try to spread it around. I have invited one of the people who was there in UNHCR Geneva for a long time, Sumbul Rizvi. You might even know her. So Sumbul is coming to help us. She's a dear friend. With the declaration, she will give the keynote, and we will have, so all of us are trying to create spaces where we'll take the declaration. But then, as I said, the declaration is for everybody. So, if you critique us, that's fine. 5 years down the line, if you tear it apart, we will think we are successful because we brought it to your notice. So this is our work now. Give us ideas. Help us with your, networks. I hate the word network. I say help us with your relationships because that is what we do in South Asia and in the Global South largely. We build relationships. So we are extending our hands to you to build more relationships. Help us to do that.
No, just quickly, because I think it's, and we'll get to this tomorrow, I think there's different kind of strategies and objectives, right? There is getting it out, and I think it's make it viral. Use it as an excuse to make your statement as well, right? Within what you can do at UNHCR IOM. But also, I think there's another kind of more of the technocratic piece, which is this idea of, the technical piece. What are the models? What are the approaches? What are some proposals, right? As we're kind of identifying the patterns that we're seeing in the region, the plan of action piece, and bringing that as well. So I think there's it's multi-pronged in terms of the public and then kind of the practitioners.
And Paula, do you want to mention that you'll be?
Yes, in December, I'm excited to be in Geneva. So I will speak to all our chairs, and whatever my little head can retain will be there, and I will go to Geneva and be the spokesperson for our chairs.
Okay. Thank you so much. I would like to use this opportunity. We have a conference on June 17 and 18. I'm praying that the High Commissioner may get a chance to speak. But what I would do is I would make this I think around 120 people are likely to come, and I will promote this in that venue. So use all opportunities that we get. That's what I'm thinking. Thank you.
Thank you, Ababa. So if you're in Addis on the 17th, 18th of June, mark your calendars. Mark your calendars. Are there other comments or questions, reactions, suggestions to the declaration? Sasan, please.
So Huwaida and I, discussed holding a webinar. We will not be able to have an in-person seminar in Lebanon, but we discussed having a webinar about internal displacement and the response to internal displacement and the issues that come up in relationship to this response. We actually could not have it in May, so now we are having a side conversation to see if we can do it a day before or a day after International Refugee Day, and you know, to have the theme of, you know, the integration of IDPs into this declaration, probably.
No, thank you, Sasan. It's a critical point. Are there other questions or comments, or do I take silence as a moment in which you're bathing in the historical significance of what has just happened? I will take it as that. If I could, as we close this panel, if I could just ask you to please join me in applauding the chairs for this work. Thank you.